This is the Economic Club of Florida, a distinguished platform for discussion of the major national issues of the day. On today's program, Freddie Figgers, CEO of Figgers Communication, on his inspirational journey and the importance of America's entrepreneurial spirit.
The entrepreneurial spirit is what is going to keep the country going. When you look at history, it's always been business leaders that make the economic impact to change the course of the country.
Good day and welcome to the 560th in our series of distinguished speaker programs. I'm Harvey Bennett for the Economic Club of Florida. We're delighted and honored to have with us today someone you'll soon discover represents the American dream. He is Freddie Figgers, CEO of Figgers Communications, a Tallahassee telecommunications company and cell phone manufacturer, and it's just one of his many enterprises to date. Freddie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have quite the remarkable story. You got off to a very rough start in life 32 years ago, abandoned in a trash can at 2 days old in nearby Gadsden County, Florida, which has one of the highest poverty rates in Florida. But you were quickly adopted by your new dad and mom, and then another life-changing moment when you were 9 years old.
Yes, correct. So at the age of 9, my father purchased me a non-working computer from Goodwill, a 1989 Macintosh all-in-one. When we bought this computer, we were advised that this computer was non-functioning, and my father was able to purchase it for $23. After I took it home, I powered the computer up, and nothing would happen. So the capacitor, when I opened the computer, I noticed that the power supply, the capacitor, and some of the chipsets were broken in the computer. As a little tinker, I ran around the house. I took apart my father's alarm clock, his VCR, his old cassette player, and I had a soldering gun that I took off and resoldered his circuit board on from his capacitor, from his alarm clocks, and put into that computer. And after 50, 60 attempts, I finally was able to get that computer to working, which I still have functioning today.
Wow, you still have that?
Yes.
Now, there's other things that happened right after that, but we're going to save that for your address. You dropped out of school at age 15, in part because you were being bullied, you said, and in part to help care for your sick dad with Alzheimer's disease. And that actually led you to one of your greatest and most lucrative inventions to date. Now, we won't spoil that surprise either. Yes. I know you'll be sharing that. That's truly an amazing story in your formal address to the club in just a few minutes. But it seems like you really found your passion in life at a young age. How crucial was finding that passion at that point in your life? And is that, do you think, how important to other young people today to find that passion?
Passion with a purpose. I meet so many people across the country that they don't like their job. They get up every morning and they go to work. You have to find what you're in love with in order to excel in it. Technology was my passion, innovating, creating something new, helping others. And every product that we've built to date has made an impact into people's lives.
It seems like you would be a curious person by nature.
Yes.
Being a tinkerer, right?
Yes.
Now, your entrepreneurial spirit led you to launch a second company, Fig Health, as well as the Figgers Foundation that helps disadvantaged children and families with their education and funds healthcare projects. As you look around the marketplace today, Freddie, in the summer of 22 here, what's the state of that entrepreneurial spirit that's so important in our economy?
The entrepreneurial spirit is what is going to keep the country going. When you look at history, it's always been business leaders that make the economic impact to change the course of the country. One thing that I've been blessed with is to impact others from the different entities that we've created, from Fig Health that focus primarily on providing affordable healthcare solutions in IT, and also just paying it forward with the Figgers Foundation. So that entrepreneurial spirit is what drives and moves the country every day.
Terrific. Freddie Figgers, CEO of Figgers Communications. Thank you, sir. We've just scratched the surface here and look forward to hearing the rest of a Gadsden County native's path to success as an American technology entrepreneur, inventor, and philanthropist.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, here's Club Vice President Marion Hoffman, Vice President of Business Solutions for Indelible Solutions, with our formal introduction.
Freddie, I was so excited you were going to be here today that I couldn't sleep last night because we've been looking forward to this for 6 months. And how many of you have been to an economic club where you were given party favors? Because I hope you saw the bags. And I want you to start by telling us what is in each Figgers bag.
Absolutely. So can everyone hear me? Okay. So in each Figgers bag, you have an AI speaker, that artificial intelligence, similar to your Amazon Alexa. So you can say, hey, Figgers, order me a pizza, or hey, Figgers, what time is it? Once it's paired with your cell phone, it learns your traffic routes, gives you the day-to-day analytics, wireless supercharger, IPS69, which is fully waterproof, Bluetooth speaker, and alarm clock. Also, we have here is our Figgers F-Buds that have active noise cancellation and in noise cancellation, Bluetooth 5.0, and over 30 hours of battery charge, completely wireless. All of our products are IPS69.
So I really appreciated that he shipped those up. And we're so proud you're a Florida company.
Yes.
Tell us about where you are located now and why you picked Florida.
So, first, I was born and raised in Florida, so I didn't want to go anywhere. My company is located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Our manufacturing facility is located in Doral, Florida. And our healthcare company is located in Bradenton, Florida. And I reside in Parkland, Florida, but originally born and raised in Gadsden County in Quincy, Florida.
And I know you're involved in many boards, and if you look at the PowerPoint, he is a proud member of Enterprise Florida with the Enterprise Florida team here. What are some of the, and also Tax Watch, I failed to mention that. What are some of the goals you have for your company going forward, and how large are you right now?
So right now, we are the only and largest minority-owned telecommunications company. We not only the largest, but we manufacture our own devices. So consumer electronics such as cell phones, earbuds, speakers, television, healthcare devices, and also provide the service as well. But we're looking to take our company and expand out. Currently right now, we're participating in multiple broadband projects across the country to expand out into rural areas to provide those last mile connectivity.
Okay, very good. And this is my favorite part about Freddie's story. So we're going to dive into it a little bit. I know you heard some of it through Jamal, and you also heard from the video. But I want you to start at the beginning, if you would, because we're proud you are a product of Gadsden County. So if you would you walk us through it, and then I'm going to refer to this and ask you about the shoe.
Absolutely. So that man you see in the picture right there is the man that saved my life. That was my father. So I was abandoned at birth. I was a John Doe for 2 years, and I was adopted at 2 weeks old. And he took me in and raised me as his own. My father was 68, my mother was 54, and gave me the last name Figgers. And that beautiful lady over there is my wife, Natalie Figgers, my daughter Rose, and my son LaRentre.
What were some of the lessons your parents taught you as you grew up? Because obviously they were incredible parents. They had already raised kids of their own, and then they brought you in their family.
Just, staying grounded. That was the best thing my father ever taught me. I mean, my father didn't have technically a formal education, but the wisdom that he had. I mean, every life situation I could go talk to him, and he'll say, well, Fred, you need to do this. Fred, you need to do that. So just really being impactful, never forget who you are, don't forget where you come from, and always paying it forward. If you can help somebody else, you do it. That's right. Without hesitating.
That's right. Now let's talk a little bit about your middle school years, because I know when you and I have visited before, middle school can be tough on kids.
Yes.
And sometimes there's a little bit of bullying. So what happened to you when you were in middle school?
So when I was in middle school, as you know, Quincy is a very small town, so everyone knows everyone. And a lot of kids used to bully me from my neighborhood and also just around. So they labeled me as a trash can baby. Sometimes, during lunch, you would have kids to pick you up, put you in the trash can, and push you down in the trash can. So that was very difficult, going to,
during those times.
But you turned it into a positive story. And tell us about how your dad took you to Goodwill and found the first computer.
And just to elaborate on that a little bit, some of the same bullies actually hired them. So they.
I love that. Some of the bullies I now hired. Some of the bullies work for him. So talk about going to the Goodwill with your dad.
So my father took me to Goodwill on Appalachia Parkway. I think it still exists today. And so we went in the back. I was always fascinated with technology, but growing up in a very impoverished environment, my father, he couldn't afford to get that Gateway computer, because I love Gateway because of the branding that they had, the cow colors, and it just was just something that just stood out. And so we went to Goodwill, and my father purchased me an all-in-one 1989 Macintosh, completely non-functional. The customer service advisor told us that, hey, this computer doesn't work. We really don't want to sell it to you, but I just persisted and said, Daddy, can we have it? And my father bought that computer for $23, and I still have that computer till today.
Wow. And it was through that experience of learning about the computer, and walk us through by the age of 14 and 15, and by this time your dad's health was declining.
Right, and so going back to the computer just a little bit. So when we got that computer and took it home, when we opened it up, I noticed that it was some of the capacitors were burst open. So being a little tinker, I ran around the house, grabbing my father's alarm clock, his VCR, his cassette player, and he was a maintenance worker here at Florida State University. So he had a big belt buckle that had a soldering gun. So I would solder parts off of the alarm clock and VCR and replace it into the computer, and got it to working.
And so what he just indicated is Freddie is a non-traditional education path. And I want you to talk about that, because here we're at Florida State and a lot of people are supportive of higher ed. We all are. But talk about how it worked for you and what your thinking is on that.
So for me, it was a blessing, because I just fell in love with technology, and that was my passion. So anything I would touch in computers, printers, networking equipment, it's like I just grasped right to it and started just building things out. So the traditional route of going to get a formal education was something that I just wanted to go directly into the private sector for.
And I have heard you say that you started taking classes and then you realized you knew more than the people teaching classes. So,
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to talk about the shoe. The shoe, means a lot to Freddie, and I asked him to bring it all the way up from Parkland because the story is amazing. So over to you about the shoe.
Right. So my father, if you look at his age and disposition, when you adopt someone, first off, he was 68 years old. So he's thinking about grandkids and great-grandchildren, not adopting a newborn baby. That was a John Doe. So my father started developing severe dementia, Alzheimer's. So it got to the point where, middle of the night, he would watch a television show called Gunsmoke. And he would wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and have a 30-30 rifle standing over me telling me, Fittler, get out of town. And so, 5 a.m. he would wake up and he would just go wandering. He would just unlock the door, leave the house completely naked, but he will always have his shoes on. And being a little tinker, innovative with technology, I had to figure out something to save my father's life. The family wanted to put him in a nursing home. I totally, disagreed, and noticed that every time I call 911, it literally like 7 a.m., 8 a.m., I call 911, they were like, hey, Freddie, we're already looking for him, because they already knew, because every day he would wonder.
And this was a precursor to Life Alert, right?
Yes.
Precursor in technology.
And so noticing that he had his shoes on, I built a chipset, put into the sole of his shoe. I integrated that with a WAN card and a 3G GPRS. Also integrated the soldered board at the very top of it with a microphone, and in the back of it here is a speaker. And I built an application on my Windows ME computer. And so I tied that in, and so I had an API connected, so I could press a button and say, hey, Dad, where are you? I would come in as a loudspeaker on his shoe and just say anything. And he says something, I would then get his keys to his Lincoln Town car and go pick him up and come back home.
And it is a bittersweet story.
Yes.
Because out of the shoe, it was the first time he was able to commercialize his success. And I want you to talk about that, but I also want you to talk about how money is just a tool and you can't bring it with you. I hear you say that many times.
Yes. So it was a good friend of mine at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital that advised me on this technology. Once I showed him like the shoe, and he was like, "It's a shoe that does this?" I was like, "Yeah." So we went right down there on Miccosukee, and he tested it, and he was like, "I got somebody I want you to meet." So it was a gentleman from Nashville, Tennessee, that came and looked at the shoe and ended up acquiring it, and that became the precursors of Life Alert. So when I say money is nothing but a tool, you can't take it with you. When I sold this invention, I had negative $700 in my account, and I get a phone call from a 431 number, and I kept looking at the number. I'm like, I'm not going to answer, and I'm not going to answer. And so when I finally did answer it, it was one of the physicians at the hospital that told me my father had passed away, and literally within that hour, I had a wire transfer that came in for a few $1 million, and
At age 17, a few $1 million.
and
Wow.
it really, it wasn't, you know, my father just wanted a F-150 and a 14-foot bass tracker, and so when I had the opportunity to finally purchase it for him, that's when he transitioned. So when I look at it, I meet so many wealthy individuals across this country every day, and I really practice what I preach. I tell them to pay it forward, because you can't take it with you.
That's exactly right. So, exactly. So now Freddie builds a business and becomes an inventor. I want you to talk about that. Have you ever thought about having your company go public, and talk about your goals for the future?
Right. So taking the company public is something that I wasn't interested in, even though I've had a ton of investors that always came to us and asked to start that initial public offering. I've been blessed to build a very successful company. Never took a penny from an investor. Always built the programs ourselves and expanded out.
Are you getting involved with all of the rural broadband discussions?
Right. So on the philanthropic side, it was funny because we've already brought broadband to over 54,000 homes across the country. So now we're doing that on the corporation side to expand out the last mile and create those cross connections in those rural areas.
Okay, very good. And now I want to go to the next slide and get to the really good part, and that's about his philanthropy. He's an amazingly generous man. More than 20% of company profits are invested in philanthropy. And I want you to talk about how you and Natalie, and I know your wife wasn't able to join you today, but how as a team you are philanthropists.
Right. So we've done so much across the world. Some of the things that we've done is helping with GAP scholarships. We've been able to impact over 7,000 students with GAP funding. We have 3 schools in Africa, over 600 students. During COVID, we donated over $2 million of PPE. Even took a 737 over to Germany to pick up the N95 masks and brought them back here to Florida. We just recently endowed Florida Memorial University on their aviation program. Initial total endowment is $1 million to help expand out and create pilots because of the pilot shortage right now. And you know, just doing a lot on the cancer research and Alzheimer's. For Alzheimer's Association of America, we power their brain bus that go out into the rural community and provide services to patients with dementia Alzheimer's.
And tell us about your dear wife and how someone reached out to her recently.
Yes.
And if you would share that story with us.
Yes, so it was a gentleman that reached out in our foundation, and he asked, some of those inquiries never come up to the chain, and this one right here made it up. And it was a gentleman that requested $500 on a support to keep his story going about He was wrongfully incarcerated. And so my wife, she took a look at it because she's an attorney, and she doesn't even practice criminal law. She practiced business. And when she took a look at it, she said, hey, I got to get involved in this. So for the first time in Miami-Dade history, she was a man that served 33 years in prison, was wrongfully convicted, was fully exonerated.
All because of Natalie Figgers. That's really exciting. So what are you most proud of? Because you're an inventor, you're a businessman, you're a philanthropist, but of all of those accomplishments, what gets you up in the morning excited?
To be able to impact lives, to be able to employ, give opportunities to people, and really make a difference. That's what motivates me.
And I could just talk to him forever, but I want you all to have the ability to ask him some questions. He is an amazing, amazing friend and leader. And with that, I am going to, Mr. President, would you like to moderate some Q&A? Because I know this club has good questions for Mr. Figgers.
Certainly. So we have a microphone, and you'll see Lisette here with it. She might bring it to you, but everybody with questions, please ask away. Members only at first, please.
Afternoon. What an amazing story. I'm curious if you could go back and give say you're 15 years old, what would be the one thing you'd want to go back and tell yourself that you know now that you didn't know then?
It comes back from a Bible scripture, but do not cast your pearl with swine. So that was something that I would really look at, just advise myself on some of the young money mistakes I've made.
And he also is fond of saying, to whom much is given,
Yes.
much is expected.
Yes.
I love that.
Any other questions? Dave?
Freddie, thanks for being with us. So the telecom space is moving very rapidly, and I'd be interested in your company's kind of outlook in that arena of like product development, and then also what's it like to try to manufacture in the United States, and do you do that exclusively, or do you have to get some products developed abroad? And one of my big concerns is China these days, and that whole arena.
So our products are manufactured in Doral, but if we have to export and build our products overseas, we always go dark with our technology. So we have them to physically assemble our components. And once we receive the components, we install the applications ourselves. Now, the supply chain, that is an entirely different beast right there. The entire world, relied on one chipset manufacturer. So hopefully the United States can take lead and we can start manufacturing our chipset components here.
And I'm going to draw up the last slide because I want you to talk about your mission.
We have questions.
Yeah.
What do you tell your children about higher education and your goals for them?
Right. So my children, they're infants. So we haven't got to that stage yet, but I want them to go to college. I want them to expand and learn and live. For me, it was my circumstances was a little bit different. So I didn't have that formal opportunity to go, but it was a blessing that, I was able to build what we've accomplished to build.
We do have more time, so if there are more questions, please step forward.
Yeah,
First.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to add something to Freddie's life path. While working as a school psychologist in the Gadsden School District, I met a young man in middle school, Freddie Figgers. And Freddie came to me, and Freddie, you may have a better recollection of how we met and why he came to me. Yeah. But he asked me to help him fill out an application and help him get a job with Net Quincy. And that was his very first job in Gadsden County.
Yes, sir.
I knew he was a prodigy then, and so it was an easy ask for me. And so we've stayed in touch over the years. And when my wife told me that he was the speaker for today, I told her I had to be here. Even though she couldn't make it, I said, your guest has got to go. And I'm so proud of Freddie and where he has come from and what he's doing with what he's been able to accomplish. So thank you all for that. And Freddie, thank you for all that you've done.
And just to elaborate on, you were state representative, and I was
Yes.
repairing literally about 200 computers a week. And so when that Quincy position came, I went to Representative Richardson and asked him, hey, can you help me with this job application? And he did. So thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Freddie, and welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you and your wife do, really, in not only Florida, but throughout the nation. And thanks for your great service. What would you say are the top 3 or 4 characteristics you look for when you bring someone on your team and why they're so important?
First off, dedication, integrity, honesty. You know, those are the main characteristics that we look for in the company, and to really look at, you know, where does that person actually fit in? You know, there's always room, but really just finding what's their strong points and their weak points.
Questions? Cindy?
Freddie, so glad you're here. In terms of the horizon and your future, what does the international business platform look like for you in the future, working with other undeveloped countries, et cetera? What does the future look for you in the international front?
So right now we're doing a lot in Kenya. We're manufacturing for a telecommunications company there and helping to expand out in their 5G called Safaricom. So we're manufacturing their customer premises equipment and also some lower model affordable handsets.
Did you say Kenya?
Kenya.
Wow, very, very impressive. Very impressive. Any other questions? Because, yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Dr. Robertson. I'm from Greenville, Florida, a small town in North Florida. So I was recently talking to some of the members of the school board and different people there, and there's still a huge problem in that area and less than a 40% high school graduation rate in my hometown. And they have a lot of problems with technology. So just wondering, what are you doing in rural areas and what can be done? What are some of the recommendations to bridge that gap?
Right. So recently what we did in Gadsden County is attempted to distribute over 25,000 hotspots to students that did not have internet access. And we built those hotspots with SIPA compliance. So they were only able to access educational programs through the academic blackboard. So expanding that out as well is something that we're looking to really just build upon.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Recently, I saw where Apple was looking at India. In fact, they made a commitment to have their products being made in India. Have you looked at India at all?
No, not India. No, not at all. So Apple uses a company called Foxconn, which had a lot of negative publicity for slave labor. So India is not something that we're looking at currently. Right now, we're able to manufacture in Doral unless we have a massive order that we have to export overseas. But when we do have to have those type of orders, we just have all of the components shipped over, assembled, and then once they're shipped back, we install our applications on them. Because there's no type of intellectual property laws in China, so you're not protected one bit.
I am so excited to speak with you today. I'm a huge tech nerd. I was wondering if you anticipate an intersection between your company, telecommunications, and the metaverse, and where you see that going, especially in the augmented reality space.
So in the augmented reality space, we're actually working on something right now that's pretty cool. So
Oh my God,
we're negotiating with not technically Facebook anymore, it's Meta, that we're putting some things together.
Some things.
So, some things I can't really talk about right now, but yes.
So I'll ask a question. So is it true, Freddie, that when you first developed the shoe and your first customers were parents that were looking for teenagers. Is that true? Just a joke question. Yes, sir.
From the metaverse perspective, have you found any difficulties developing cross-chain? Do you have you seen any preferences towards Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, or some of the more niche like gaming spheres like Sandbox, where you find that the development's easier?
So I think that the development API portal for those sandboxes are a little bit different, but that's something that we're not currently exploring right now, but in the future we may.
Sir.
Mr. Figgers, could you speak to some of the work that you're doing with underrepresented populations in the healthcare arena?
Yes, so currently we have a electronic medical record system that we primarily focus around federally qualified health centers. When you look at the FQHC, their majority of their patients are underserved in minority communities, and their electronic medical records, there's some of them are still on spreadsheets. So our EMR focused primarily on uninsured, giving the best solution, and currently we serve a little bit over 800,000 members.
This is great. Other questions? Yes, sir.
On that same topic, I worked with the Agency for Healthcare Administration here in Florida with a program for promoting interoperability for the electronic health record technologies. And I noticed something from the environmental scan that we saw. There was a rise in adoption of electronic health record technologies, but not necessarily the interoperability to communicate between electronic health record technologies. Do you see that being remedied over the next 5 years, or are there any solutions that you have seen in the pipeline to really start connecting them so that larger hospital networks are more easily able to communicate with FQHCs or RHCs? Thank you.
So that's a great question, because that's a big problem that's going on right now in South Florida with a company called Cerner and Epic, with their interoperability not able to connect to each other. So what we did with our EMR is built everything around NFC, and we also have Bluetooth 5.0. So they're able to connect to those hardware peripheral devices. Like, for example, our remote patient monitoring system for patients with congestive heart failure or diabetes. So as soon as you check your blood sugar, instantly shares the results to your cell phone, and also it can monitor your heart rate, 24 hours a day. So our technology is focused primarily on the NFC, also 4G LTE, and Bluetooth technology for Bluetooth 5.0 with those hardware. But any antiquated devices, that's a challenge right now of different EMRs upgrading their systems.
And Freddie, you had mentioned something to me about the announcements you wanted to make about the club.
Oh, I've had so much fun here. I want to become a member.
Did you want to wrap up with Freddie?
I just want to say thank you for your attention. And I really liked having a lot of questions from the audience because it's all about you all. And so thank you for coming today to honor this very special leader. And over to Lo.
You've been listening to Figgers Communication CEO Freddie Figgers, speaking before the Economic Club of Florida on August 25th, 2022 in Tallahassee, Florida. For more information on Figgers Communication, visit figgers.com. The Economic Club of Florida promotes interest and enlightenment on important economic, political, and social issues of the day. To learn more, including how to become a member, visit our website at economic-club.com. This program was recorded at the Florida State University Alumni Center in Tallahassee, Florida.